So Nathan, how's life on the Hive treating you?
Very social. Very, very
Indeed,
multicoloured.
Very, very active, I would say.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I would say that it's nice and peaceful. I get to sit and look at some art from people that made the jump, and there's nothing else happening. You know, it came from the moon.
It's been fascinating these past few days, or past few weeks, I
Past
suppose,
few weeks
watching
now.
everything unfolds. Because there was a day, it was like one day when everyone was like, we're all going to make the jump to Hive. And then a few days before that, it was, we're all going to make the jump to Mastodon.
Yeah.
And then nothing, because people just sort of slowly filter back into Twitter again.
Yeah. Like, people can do as much, theoretical grandstanding as they like. People will stay on Twitter. Because the community is there, the people are there, and it's too much work to drag everyone across. The only people that could do that would be maybe like strategically placed celebrities, but they're not going to do that because they don't want to get seen as political and their brand will be tarnished, and they're not sure that all of the other ones that will be theoretically needed are going to do it. So Twitter's where people are, and it's just much easier to stay.
The thing is, right, so there was an evening a couple of weeks ago where it was like Twitter's gonna die because Elon Musk fired like half the staff, right?
That was that was hysterical.
The thing is, I think everyone loves the idea of it going down in a big crash of flames because that's cool and dramatic.
It's dramatic.
The reality is, if Twitter dies, it's going to be long and it's going to be slow.
Yep. But also to me, it signal posts to me how little people actually know about how anything works. Because it wasn't like it was a fringe group of people saying Twitter was going to die. It was everyone. I said to you at the time, I think it's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. And then you were like, I don't know, based on what I've been reading. Then I had a look, and even I got gaslit into it. Because afterwards, I had to have a little bit of reflection. I was like, I am susceptible here to mass thought groupthink. And I always hoped that I wouldn't have been. But that was a clear moment where for like 40 minutes, I was like, this is the end. But it was only because people were saying it.
It's more fun to get sucked up into it, though, because you can, like, live in the imaginary world where Twitter goes down in a blaze of glory.
That's very true. That's very true. But it also was just kind of embarrassing, because it's like, just be an adult. It's not gonna happen. Elon Musk stupidly fired a bunch of people, and those engineers are much more knowledgeable than him about how the service works. But at the same time, he needs to know that he ain't going to tank a $44 billion acquisition in 2 nights. You know, like, it takes some time to kill it.
You got a perfect clip there for when it happens.
It takes some time to kill these things.
Now, we have 2 main things, I think, or at least like 1.5 main things we want to talk about. But we have waited a while on this, so there's been a couple other things that I want to quickly address, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. Knock yourself out, buddy.
So, the main thing I want to talk about, we got a couple of trailers for Brazil Comic-Con, is that what you said it was?
Yeah, Brazilian Comic-Con.
But the main one that interests me is we got a trailer for the new Indiana Jones film.
Oh, man. Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
So, here's the thing. I actually think this looks surprisingly good.
I'm not. James Mangold's involved. He done Logan. He done lots of good stuff.
I don't know that name, so it's a surprise to me just based on the fact that it's a 5th Indiana Jones film.
Have you seen Logan?
I haven't seen Logan, actually.
You haven't seen Logan? Right, picture this. The director made a film about an old man and a young girl on a road trip.
Okay, well, that does seem...
Put Harrison Ford and Phoebe Waller-Bridge into that, we get the same movie. Except I don't think that,
It's not going to have the same tone.
So, and also I don't think it's going to have the same ending.
Yeah, seems unlikely.
So, you think it looks surprisingly good, Kyle, why?
Because, I don't know, to me, it seems like an odd idea to make a 5th Indiana Jones film. Especially since I think it's very funny that the plot of this one is like the whole, oh, he's getting too old for this, which was also the idea of the last film as well. He's just like, he's even older than too old for this now.
I don't think that's what this movie's going to be about, though, the fact that he's too old. I know that will be part of it because they are compelled by society to have to address the fact that he is an older gentleman. But apart from the fact that they feel they need to address it, I actually don't think that's what this film's going to be about. It's not going to be, you know, this will be an undiscovered country, you know? Whereas you could say that the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull might have been a Wrath of Khan. Feels old, but he's still got some juice in him. This is no, we really are old. This really is the end.
Right, okay. How do you feel about the name?
So, it's a bit weird. I saw the tweet from the official Disney Twitter account, and it says Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny in theatres, and it was a crap poster. Such an awful poster of just Harrison Ford in a hat, and said June 30th at the bottom, no title on it or anything. It was just the tweet text that was the title. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was something else. I was like, wait, is this coming out before Indiana Jones 5? What's this? What's the Dial of Destiny? When's Indy 5 coming out? Because it read to me like a Star Wars Legends book title. Or like a video game or like a side thing that they were doing. And then after, like, and I don't just mean like a beat, I mean like 5 beats went by, and I'm just like, what is this? What is this? And then I was like, is this it? Is this the name? I don't know if I don't like it. I think it's just Indiana Jones to us is such an ingrained, it's even rarer than James Bond. We don't get one every day. We don't even get an IP related thing all the time. We don't get comic books or toys or something. This is like an IP that disappears for 10 years at a time. To hear a new thing, it's like when The Force Awakens came out. It's like, oh, there's a new Star Wars thing coming out, and this is a new name that we've never had before, when 6 movies was so ingrained as being that's what it is. And you get time to adjust to it, and I think that it doesn't really set you off. But I think Dial of Destiny will be fine. I can kind of hear it in the same vein as like a Temple of Doom. I think it's not as cool a title as Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. That's a cool title.
I think the thing about it for me is there's something so modern about the word dial, or not modern because dials aren't modern, but something very technological about it. Whereas all the previous titles are like The Temple and Raiders of the
Crusade.
Lost Ark, The Last Crusade, you know, they're all very sort of old-timey, like, adventure-y type things. Then Dial is just like, is he tuning a radio to channel Destiny?
Well, so I think that this is the Dial of Destiny is going to be about.
I know it's a setting. It's like a saying. I understand that.
Is it a saying?
Yeah, it's like, I think so. I think I've heard that before.
Well, I think it was going to be a reference to. I think we think there's going to be time travel shenanigans involved, which is going to be, you know,
really
interesting.
Boy. That's certainly a direction to take.
I really hope they don't do time travel, but I know there's going to be time jumps in it, because we're going to see young Harrison Ford. That's in the trailer. You know, they announced that before the trailer even came out. Yeah, I think he looks great, by the way. What might get confusing, though, is I think they're going to try and pretend that Kingdom of Crystal Skull didn't happen. So it's going to be weird to think of, like, oh, when we jump back to 1944, this is somebody who hasn't done Kingdom of the Crystal Skull yet in the 50s. Yes. You know what, Kel? Here, I can sum it up in this, right? This is how I feel about Indiana Jones 5 and the Dial of Destiny. Mm-hmm. It is my most anticipated movie of next year.
Wow, okay. Even more so than Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3?
We can get there. That'd be a good segue if I didn't have more to say. But I got more to say. Say it again later. I honestly, like the best movie ending to me ever is the ending of The Last Crusade. I think it is a perfect ending. I think just everything beat for beat is wonderful. Just like the last scene with the ride away and the horses, right? You were named after the dog, Sean Connery, all of that wonderful stuff, right? This is almost like the last adventure action franchise that still exists with the original cast. Like when the first Indiana Jones movie came out, they were still making William Shatner Star Trek movies, you know? And I'm just so excited. I like Indiana Jones as a character. I like he punches the Nazis, and Harrison Ford does a punch better than any actor that's ever lived.
I mean, you always need those classic Indiana Jones punch noises too.
Exactly. I thought the end sting in the trailer was really funny when he whips everyone and says "get back." Really, like fighting for his life, and they'll pull out guns, and he thought it was good fun. It's just good fun. And it's just something about it. Maybe it's just the romance of the franchise in my head talking, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm just really looking forward to it.
Fair enough. I'm cautiously optimistic.
But are you looking forward to it as much as you're looking forward to Guardians of the Galaxy 3?
No. I'm looking forward to Guardians of the Galaxy 3 more.
Ah, are you?
Yes, I love the Guardians films. Guardians 2 is one of my favourite of the entire Marvel series, to be honest.
I really like Guardians 2 more than I like Guardians 1. However, I've always found Star-Lord to be an awful character. I find him really annoying. I see the Guardians' humour, like the silly jokes and the serious moments. I've never been a fan of it.
I mean, some would argue that's all of the Marvel movies.
There's something about the Guardians that stick out. Like, you know that yourself. There is a tonal comedic difference in the Guardians movies that isn't present in the rest of the MCU.
It's more exaggerated. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's even as humorous as the Taika Waititi Thor movies, though. I think those are the most extreme.
I think the stakes are lower.
I wouldn't be so sure about that.
Well, I mean, what I'm saying is in the context of before Thor Love and Thunder.
Right, okay.
Ragnarok isn't particularly high stakes.
All of Asgard gets destroyed in Thor Ragnarok.
And he doesn't really make many jokes during that third act.
I don't know. I think that's part of the... you're talking about like how he saves Andor with the dance-off, that sort of thing.
Kind of, but like I get that is literally baked into that movie with the Footloose references. Here's another thing, right? I can acknowledge that James Gunn is a very talented filmmaker and he loves and cares about these characters. And he doesn't half-ass these Guardians movies. He does quite a good job crafting them. But ultimately it'll just come down to taste. And I can acknowledge that something's a really good meal with also saying that's just not what I like. And I think that the second Guardians movie is probably better than the first IMO. I just think that they're both not for me, even if I can acknowledge they're good. That being said, though, I am quite looking forward to the third one, because I quite like the Guardians Holiday Special. Guardians
Holiday Special was a fun time, and you probably liked it because Star-Lord was barely in it.
Probably. I like the humanity moments of him. See, when he has serious moments, I like that. But I just can't be bothered with a lot of the funny. Like, I'm still not over the bullshit in Infinity War, by the way, where he wakes up Thanos. I'm still not over it.
Is that what? Oh, come on.
It's this. I wasn't big on him before that, right? But it's still hanging over me. This happened in 2018, and I cannot believe that he couldn't keep his shit together for 2 seconds.
Killed his girlfriend, man.
Yeah, they were gonna kill him. They got the gauntlet off, and they probably would have killed him anyway.
I don't have problems. I think for the third one, potentially he'll be more out of his man-child phase. Like, it seems like they are going in a more mature direction for him for this last one, because his appearance in the third and Love and Thunder, he was a bit more mature. He was actually giving Thor advice. So I think
completely forgot they were in Love and Thunder.
Yeah, they're barely in it, but they do show up at the start.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so I think maybe you might like him more in this one. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I hope so. You know, and because again, I know that James Gunn has a true craftsmanship of this trilogy, and this is the last one with this team. I think we're going to get a few deaths in it, to be quite honest with you.
I expect everyone says Drax is probably going to bite it, and I agree.
I'm just kind of like, I want to see how it wraps up, because I don't think he's going to do it badly. Like, when I go and see Guardians 3, I'm not expecting to go see a bad movie, and I'm looking forward to it. It's just historically just that whatever that exaggerated humour is just hasn't been for me. But we'll see. You know, I'm looking forward to it. Got full faith in James Gunn, but it's not going to top Indiana Jones for me for just the rose-tinted glasses I have for that franchise.
Fair enough. How do I transition into Black Panther from here? You got one? You got an idea for this?
Speaking of really funny Marvel movies, Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever.
Oh yeah, it's laugh a minute, that one.
Speaking of hilarity.
let's try to avoid spoilers for this one, because this isn't like our main point of conversation, I would say.
Are we going to
But
get into spoilers, or are we just not?
Honestly, there's some things that you can spoil, but I think most of this movie you can kind of gather from the trailers anyway.
Yeah, this movie isn't one filled with surprises.
No, it's not like one where a twist is gonna like change the whole thing, really.
There aren't really any twists, I would say.
I would say there's one major death that I wasn't expecting, but other than that, it was pretty standard.
That's very fair. Yeah, T'Challa's death, right?
Yeah, I know. I can't believe it. He died off screen between films.
Could I actually talk about the opening for this film for a second?
Oh, sure, yeah.
I thought that was a genius way to begin it, because I really was like, right, okay, so we know that this entire movie, and like a meta level, is going to be interesting just to see how they not only deal with the death of the character, but it's because the actor had died.
Yes.
And for the film to start, essentially mere moments before the death of T'Challa, is wild. Just like it was like a, despite there was no action, but it was like white knuckle, like gripping the side of your chair, because she's trying to synthesize the whole thing. It's like a shaky cam that's following her through like the hospital clinic, her science lab, and people are like, go be with your brother, and then the Queen walks in, it's like, your brother is dead. And it was so like everything, like I saw it in a full cinema, and you could like cut the tension in the room with a knife, because everyone was like, wow, like what a cold open. Literally, it was chilling.
Right after that, they also do the Marvel opening, but it's all
silence and Chadwick Boseman. Yeah, didn't they do that for the film that came out immediately after his death? No.
I can't remember. I don't know. They definitely did that for Stanley after Stanley died.
Oh, it's Stanley I'm thinking of, sorry. Yeah.
It's an interesting one to think about, because in many ways this scene only makes sense if you know that Chadwick Boseman has died. Which it's obvious saying that now, because like, well, everyone knows that. It was a massive news story that he died of cancer, surprisingly,
but
right?
As time goes on.
As time goes on, yeah. Like, as a kid 15 years from now, going to be so confused going into the second Black Panther movie that the main character died between films? Probably.
Yeah, they'll be like, wait, where's T'Challa?
Yeah, so it's a very of its time movie in that way.
Yeah. So some people have asked me what I thought of it, and I've said that I think this movie kind of pulls off what it tries to do. I should say, by the way, we didn't really talk about it. I like this film.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I thought in terms of the Phase 4 movies, this is definitely one of the strongest ones.
Yeah, I think this and Spider-Man No Way Home are the only two really good movies, actually.
They're really good for very, very different reasons.
For very different reasons. And I think this movie was really good, and I enjoyed it, and I think this film pulls off what it's trying to do, but under some specific circumstances of it kind of being a meta experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when you get onto a Black Panther 3, potentially, at some point, you're kind of going to be left, at least I thought, we weren't left with any protagonist that was better than the character of T'Challa. And I think a Black Panther 3 you're going to find really struggling, because a lot of that audience kind of good faith and intrigue over the death of Chadwick Boseman will just be gone. Mm-hmm. And I think they're going to find themselves really stunted going forward, being like, I wish we just recast T'Challa, because I really don't see a future for any potential Black Panther at the moment. It's like a strong lead, you know?
Okay, I think the film does a pretty good job of fleshing out the side characters from the first movie and making them more into sort of ensemble main characters. I think that kind of works, because a lot of the characters in the first movie were fine, but a little bit underdeveloped, especially Nakia, Lupita Nyong'o's character in the first movie. She is very forgettable in the first movie. Yeah, and she shows up and she's got more sort of stuff going on, like she's kind of moved away from Wakanda, she's doing like teacher stuff. She has like her own stuff going on, which makes her a bit more interesting. So yeah, they flesh them out, and obviously Queen Rwanda, yeah, Angela Bassett, she is great in this film. And yet, like, the film does let her be wrong in an interesting way. Like, she's clearly doing things that aren't like the most strategically sound, because Like, there's a great speech, I think it's after minor spoilers, she removes Okoye from her position.
Yeah.
And she gives this big speech. I think it's in the trailers as well, of like how much she's lost.
Yeah, my family's gone, most powerful nation on earth, yeah.
And even the other counselors are like, are you sure this is the right thing to do? And she's like, shut your goddamn mouth.
Yeah. Grief-stricken.
Great stuff, yeah. I also, I know we talked about this already, but I loved Namor in this film. I thought Namor and all of Talokan and all that stuff, I thought that was great.
Another kingdom, like it wasn't an oppressive, authoritarian militia country. Like it was just people living their lives. There was kids there having fun. Like it wasn't Mordor, you know? It was just another place.
Yeah, and I think that makes it more interesting because, yeah, they could be like your stereotypical evil kingdom, but they're not. You can't boil them down to that.
Yeah, you couldn't launch a weapon of mass destruction there just thinking you're killing baddies.
Yeah, and I just think Namor was so charismatic, arguably too charismatic for that character, but I think it works.
I don't think he was that charismatic. I never found him convincing at all.
Oh, I loved him. I thought he was great.
I liked him because I was like, oh, he thinks he's right, but he's wrong. You know, like he has a legitimate nation with people who legitimately love him, and he thinks he's looking out for their best interests. And him trying to kind of bring Shuri around, so a little bit of chemistry there. Though I hope they don't go that way.
I think he's totally right. Like, he's talking about how he has to protect his nation from the surface world, as he calls it, because they're an underwater people.
Yeah.
And like, he's just factually correct. Like, America or anything like that would absolutely like kill them all to get that vibranium. And I think at one point, what's her face, Val actually says that at one point. She's like, "Oh, I'm imagining America with all the vibranium right now. It's great." So, like, I think the film is very, very good at demonstrating that he's not wrong about this. There is a strategic advantage here to killing everyone first. Well, obviously, yes, it's not the moral right thing to do.
Yeah, but first mover advantage and all the rest of it. But, like, he ultimately is not very democratic in how he deals with other nations such as Wakanda to persuade them, you know?
No.
You lose the argument with your tactics.
I get that.
Like, he's literally wrong with his stance on Wakanda. Wakanda is a surface nation. They're not coming for Talokan.
I just think the film is really good at presenting a situation where there isn't really a correct way of dealing with this, or at least there isn't a very clear one. And I think we've already mentioned that, like, this plot line about the war for vibranium, that's not going away. That's going to be explored in future projects as well.
The vibranium war is here to stay, I think, for now. I
yes.
think we'll probably see it in Captain America, to be quite honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Could play into the Thunderbolts. Because what are they doing with Val right now? I was so surprised she showed up in this movie, by the way.
I was shocked. I had no idea she was in this film.
No leaks, no trailers, no nothing. She just shows up. She just gets out of the car on the bridge and she's just there, you know?
And she's married to Martin Freeman.
Which I loved.
Was married.
I loved that.
I don't know, that character is still doing nothing for me at the moment.
Martin Freeman?
No, Val.
Oh, Val? No, I think because she's sort of like the anti-Nick Fury.
That's what they keep saying.
Well, I mean, she shows up in the post-credit scene of Black Widow and like hires Yelena. She takes US Agent at the end of Falcon the Winter Soldier. Now it turns out she's not even in a shadowy organisation. She's just, it's shadowy, you know what I mean, relative to MCU standards.
She's in a real organisation.
She's just the director of like the CIA or something. Because she's now director, you know, Allegra de Fontaine.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, to me, that whole part with Martin Freeman, you can cut out of the film and lose nothing.
Well, Martin Freeman kind of helps communicating with Wakanda and stuff.
Yeah, but they could have figured all that stuff out without him being there. That his whole plot line is kind of just there and goes and he gets arrested and then they free him. It's a bit of a cul-de-sac in the film.
Yeah, so what I would say is I thought this film was a bit long, and
I agree.
It kind of bulges a bit in the middle, and you're thinking, oh, I hope this tapestry of threads all gets roped back together at the end, you know, going from top to bottom.
There's a point, like halfway through the film, or maybe not halfway, but 3/4, where I'm like, oh man, this is the finale. This is the film over.
Oh, I thought the third act was rubbish, should I say, by the way.
Yeah, it's yeah, there's a weird thing, like, yeah.
Aircraft carrier
minor
fight.
spoilers, but there's a really cool invasion of Wakanda scene, which is great.
Yeah.
Where, like, there's, like, these water bombs going off. There's actually a great scene where, like, there's water flooding into the streets, and all the people of Wakanda are looking down like, what's happening? Why is there water flooding the streets? And then, like...
They're not expecting to have been attacked.
Yeah, and then just, like, shit just goes down, and it's great. And then, but the finale doesn't also take place in Wakanda. It takes place on this giant, weird boat thing.
An aircraft carrier.
Weird. Yeah. It's an odd finale. I mean, I like the fight between Shuri and Namor, but everything else in that finale is just, like, random bad.
What do you think of Ironheart?
She is another one where, like, she feels like she's in this film not because it benefits the film, but because she's getting her own show later.
Yeah.
And that was just how I felt about it the whole time.
I agree.
Because in terms of narrative function, she really just completely doubles up with Shuri.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, she's the scientist person who does all the science stuff, but Shuri does all that in the film, so she's just there to also, like, say, yeah, that makes sense.
It's like Echo being in Bad Batch.
Yes. Sorry, I thought you meant Echo and Hawkeye for a second.
No.
It's like, what's that? Yeah, no. Yeah, you're right, Echo doubles up with Tech. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
And I think that her outfit wasn't great either. I didn't like her Ironheart uniform.
No, it looked a bit like... it looked fake, even though I'd seen pictures, and it was actually like a practical set or a practical costume for some of it.
I don't even know if it was actually. I know there is a practical costume coming in for the Ironheart show, but it's not the same one because it felt like it was to sell toys because they specifically end this movie with "You can't take your suit home with you," so she's going to build a whole new suit in the Ironheart show, and that one actually looks more Iron Man like. Whereas this...
I thought it was so odd that she has an Iron Man suit in this, and they don't really make it that big of a deal. Like, it's just a thing.
Yeah. She's just got a exoskeleton of Stark tech, and it's fine. This is what's going to all come home to roost in Armor Wars, I think. I wouldn't be surprised if Rhodey shows up in Ironheart.
Oh, I guarantee he will, yeah.
I always forget that Armor Wars is now going to be a movie. Because in my head it still feels like it's going to be a show, but then I'm like, no, a movie, that means higher stakes. Like, it's going to be a bigger deal now.
In terms of this movie, I still think that Ironheart was a bit like, yeah, she was the one who made the vibranium scanner thing, but in terms of the movie, that could have been any scientist. It didn't need to specifically be Riri Williams. It just felt a bit shoved in there.
I think that this is one of those moments where we're feeling the symptom of the shared cinematic universe forcing things to happen. Because it's like, we've got a show coming, we need to introduce the character beforehand.
I think that has been a major problem of Phase 4 in general.
Phase 4 has been kind of weak sauce.
I just think a major problem of it has been this feel that they have to put something in something else before they can just be its own thing. Like, this was... kind of the biggest problem with Hawkeye is so much of it is about Echo for reasons that don't really make sense unless you know that Echo's getting her own show. There's definitely other examples of this, but I'm drawing a blank right now.
So you could say Black Panther and Civil War, but that worked.
Yeah, that one was integrated a little bit better. I don't know, I just feel like it's been very prevalent in this era, in this phase, which is over now, I guess it doesn't really feel... They've said that this was the last film, but it doesn't feel particularly climactic as the end of a phase, you know? Well,
phases were always supposed to be like just a production schedule. They weren't supposed to be the fandom thing, and then the fans latched onto it, so now they kind of use it as marketing. But I think creatively, they ultimately still just see it as a production schedule. And I do think that it is kind of disjointed with things like plus shows extending phases and making maybe phases kind of feel like they're ending sort of arbitrarily.
Yeah.
I mean, the first phase ended with Avengers, you know?
Well, yeah, and then the next phase ended with Avengers 2.
Yeah, and then phase 3 ended with Avengers 4.
Exactly, so...
What I've started to hear is that what the point of the multiverse saga is going to start to become very apparent. Like, all this, what is the Infinity Saga with the Infinity Stones, and you're going to start seeing the stones show up. Wasn't always prevalent in the MCU. It kind of really started to get heavy from about Age of Ultron onwards. But the first...
Well, yeah, because it wasn't clear. It was kind of backfilled that the Tesseract is an Infinity Stone, and the same with the Ether in Thor 2.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of think that we might get a little bit of that with this phase, except now we're clued into it, so we're looking for it ahead of time.
Well, they've kind of hinted at some stuff with, like, the Ten Rings and Shang-Chi.
But what's that got to do with the multiverse saga?
Well, exactly. It presumably something, but we just don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking that maybe starting with Quantumania, because that is, Kang.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I think I've heard that Quantumania is apparently a bit of a silly movie. I really hope it's not. I know Ant-Man's supposed to be funny, but, like, Kang's quite a serious guy,
That's why it's such a weird choice to introduce Kang in an Ant-Man film. Anyway, Black Panther, pretty good. I think we've been dancing around at least what my main issue with the film is, and you kind of suggest that they don't have a protagonist to rival Chadwick Boseman.
No, they do not.
And that's my major problem with the film, which is it never convinced me that Shuri, this is basically Shuri's movie, she is the protagonist. It never convinced me that she has the charisma to lead a franchise.
Well, from what we've heard, apparently she doesn't want to.
Well, yeah, there's that too, but which makes it doubly weird that they chose her to be the protagonist. But I mean, it makes sense.
Comic book reasons, and she has his sister. Like, I understand why we did it, but from the outside, she's not who I would have picked. Well, they made M'Baku Winston Duke. They made him the king.
Yeah, but that was weird too, because it's not really that set up in this film that he's going to do that. So I don't know.
I think we might see him becoming the new Black Panther going forward if Shuri wants to stay in Haiti.
I can see that, and I think it's good. I genuinely think it's going to be quite a while till we get a third Black Panther film anyway.
Yeah, I think we're going to see Black Panther. Could you imagine if they did an Avengers Secret Wars and there wasn't a Black Panther? Like...
Yeah, no, I'm sure there will be a Black Panther in Secret Wars, but I don't think we're going to get a Black Panther 3 for, like, I don't know, maybe like 5 or 6 years at least.
Yeah, so did I. I mean, what, 2018, 2019, 2022, it's been about 4 years.
Like, there's rumours that Ryan Coogler is going to direct the next Avengers films, right?
So there's rumours that he was going to direct Secret Wars because the director of Shang-Chi is who got the Kang Dynasty.
Right. Okay.
And they think that because these films are apparently they're going to be bigger tasks than Infinity War and Endgame were, to be like one movie that two. Because I mean, the Russo brothers were a creative team, so maybe they could take the load of two movies, but single directors they think maybe can't, especially because they are in production basically continuously at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe they might be splitting. I don't think they have announced who's taking Secret Wars, but Ryan Coogler would seem to be the favourite right now, the bookies' favourite,
Mm-hmm.
Now, the fact that the director of Shang-Chi is getting Kang Dynasty, to me seems like Shang-Chi probably will be a big part going forward, But,
yeah, I think that was assumed anyway.
Yeah, but Shang-Chi just kind of feels dormant at the minute. Like, he don't feel he's doing anything.
Well, that's the thing with a lot of... I think maybe Phase 5, I agree with you, will help Phase 4 because we'll start to see a lot of these introduced characters do more stuff, hopefully.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of characters that they've introduced in Phase 4, which I think are good, which they just haven't done much. Like, obviously, Yelena, great. I want to see her in more stuff.
It's just that it's like the unpopular wheel spinning. Like, they're getting the engine started, they're stuck in the mud. Maybe Phase 4 is kind of mid, but it's because they are being really grounded to start again with nothing, and that's just not exciting. Whereas people think Marvel's at the top of a mountain right now, above the clouds with a gorgeous view, when in fact Kevin Feige has ripped it down, and he's like, no, we're going back into the mud.
I mean, it is smart that way, right? They've lowered everyone's expectations now.
Yeah. That means Phase 5 is going to blow people away just because they do one thing that's kind of neat.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see. I haven't lost faith yet.
Good. I haven't either. If other people I know have, though.
Okay, Nathan, I think it's time for the big one. It's time to talk about the new Disney Plus show that's sweeping the nation. We're, of course, talking about Willow.
Oh, you done it. Oh, we went Lucasfilm and then you zigged. I expected a zag. Oh, no.
That's me, I'm subverting expectations, Nathan.
Oh, no. No, go see Knives Out. Go see Knives Out Glass Onion.
I, as much as I would love to commit to this joke, I haven't actually watched Willow, neither the film or the new show. I've heard it's pretty good. People seem to like it. But,
I've heard it's pretty bad.
Oh, okay, well, we've heard conflicting things.
We have heard that. That means that we have nothing to say about it.
We have nothing to say. I know nothing about Willow. I was shocked when they announced the show because I'd never heard of Willow until they announced the show.
I'd heard of it, I just never seen it. Warwick Davis's Star project.
Yeah, well, speaking of Warwick Davis, he's also in Star Wars.
So he is.
He's one of the few characters who's in multiple roles in Star Wars, right?
Yeah, he is.
Speaking of characters who are in multiple roles in Star Wars, we're talking about Andor.
Who's in multiple roles? Oh, Andy Serkis. There we go. He's Snoke. He's Grand Leader Snoke. So he is.
Supreme Leader Snoke. Come on,
I said Grand Leader.
Right.
I said Grand Leader. I'm sorry. I'll hand in my credential card. I've never seen a Star Wars.
Okay, we're beating around the bush. Okay, I'm just going to say this flat out. Andor, it might be the best Star Wars thing ever.
It's definitely the best piece of Star Wars television ever.
Well, easily. Okay, it's almost hard to compare to other Star Wars stuff because it's so different.
Yeah, it's prestige telly. It almost seems like it belongs on like HBO with Game of Thrones.
Yes, I would agree.
Or like Succession, that Brian Cox show where he plays a Rupert Murdoch, essentially. It's like a big media thing. All this
how are we going to do this?
This Emmy bait telly.
I think the best way to structure this we're going to do full spoilers, but I say we go through this arc by arc would be the best way to do this.
So arc 1 is the heist.
No, arc 1 is the introduction.
Ah, yes. The
first 3 episodes.
Yes. I'm getting off the planet.
Andor murders 2 cops and goes on the run.
Yes,
Now, I honestly think that first scene is like the best way they could have introduced the show. It's such a strong opening.
Oh, and then the strip club?
And the cyberpunk planet, yep.
Yeah.
There's a strip club, and it's just, it immediately tells you, like, this show is different.
Yeah, this really is. People talk about the seedy underbelly of the Star Wars universe, and then you get Boba Fett, and it's just nothing.
Oh god, I've been thinking about Boba Fett a lot, thinking about the show, because it's just night and day.
Like, Boba Fett is a show they didn't want to make. This is a show they really wanted to make. Though, here's the thing. I think that for some reason I'm possessed to believe that the producers in Andor were very hands-off, because I don't think a business would have allowed them to make this.
Yeah, and I really hope that doesn't affect season 2.
I think...
jumping ahead here a bit, but
the viewing figures are down, so I hope it doesn't make them come back in. It's like, we've committed to season 2, but you want those viewing figures up, we need a lightsaber. Yeah,
because I've heard too that like this show was shot at the same time as like Obi-Wan and that, so they couldn't use the volume. And I think that was unintentionally an amazing creative decision, because just actually seeing real sets makes such a difference.
I filmed a lot of it in Scotland. A lot of
the second arc stuff is in Scotland. You can tell because it just looks real. And
apparently I can get on a 50-minute train and go to that dam.
And I don't want to like shit on the volume, because it has been used really well. But just the amount of laziness on display in Kenobi, looking back on it, like you see some of the shots and it's like they're in a big circle, and you can see the big circle because the actors aren't walking outside of the circle.
Yeah. They used a lot of traditional green screen in this, and for some reason green screen, even though it's edited in, doesn't feel as claustrophobic.
No, it's just because, to bring it back to the first arc, like the Ferrix, which is where a lot of the show takes place, comparing Ferrix to Mos Espa in the Book of Boba Fett, it's like laughable, the comparison. Because Ferrix feels so real, and you can like by the end of the show, you can actually kind of picture the layout of the city in your head. Like, there's the main road with the hotel on it, and there's the big corner there. And if you go down that corner, you get to Andor's house, and you can actually visualize it.
Yeah.
Whereas Mos Espa is just like rows and rows of identical desert streets.
It felt like Rango.
Oh, it's been a long time since I watched Rango.
Just like a little western desert town city with a saloon. You know? I suppose I'm thinking of the place that skinny Boba Fett man, the Marshal, lived in.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's... I'm talking about the big city that
the third act
takes over.
The third act place, let's not talk about Boba Fett. Let's not talk about it. So here's the thing, right? Let's contrast this to the list of Star Wars TV. Contrast it is that I really enjoy Mando. I like the Dave Filoni cinematic universe field that he's introducing into Star Wars TV. I love Filoni's creative outlook. I think it's really fun. It is a bit more Marvel-y, but like, I remember when Luke Skywalker showed up, I remember when Ahsoka showed up, I remember when Ahsoka said, "Where's Grand Admiral Thrawn?" And it's all this thing, shared universe story building on building. That's all great and I love it. This done none of that. Andor done the exact opposite, possibly in the most violent way possible, and it was still brilliant. No setup, no thing, there's like one line where they talk about something on Scarif, but with no clue to what it might be.
I would say there's no thing, there's a couple, but they're more subtle and they're more integrated into the story.
Fair.
Because like Saw Gerrera shows up and they don't really introduce who he is.
Yeah, Two Tube Man, his right hand man.
Two Tubes, Melshi, everyone loves Melshi.
Yeah, I forgot who he was until I was like, oh yeah, he's Rogue One Man.
Yeah, I had no clue, but yeah, that was apparently a thing. Yeah, we have discussed this before, obviously. Me and you have very different opinions on the thing aspect of the Filoni shows.
Yeah.
And I still like Mando. I'm not super hot on season 2. We talked at length about the end of Mando season 2.
At length.
So, but this show, it basically does everything I've wanted from a Star Wars show since the Disney era. Like you say, it's something completely different. It doesn't have a lightsaber in it. It doesn't even have the Force in it at all. Nobody even mentions Jedis.
There's one line about Emperor Palpatine, but it's purely in a political sense and not in an evil space wizard sense.
Yeah, there's more than one line. They mention him a couple of times, but that's because he's the Emperor and he's going to come up.
Yeah, and there's a lot of this set in the Senate.
Yes.
I really thought we were going to see him. I guess why would the Emperor show up to the Senate now? It's a complete sham. He doesn't need to be there. But,
We're jumping ahead. We'll get to the Monmouth and stuff. I want to focus on the first arc first, because I remember when it first announced they were doing the first 3 episodes, like, that's a lot of episodes to start with. But after watching them, it makes total sense that they did it that way.
Yeah, the first episodes are kind of boring if you don't watch them all together. That first arc is like Phase 4 spinning mud to start up. It's like
See, I don't actually agree that the first episodes are boring per se. Like, I would say by the end of the first episode, I was already hooked. But
you see, I wasn't. I think if I didn't have those full arc episodes, episodes 1, 2, and 3, I would have. See, if like it was just episode 1 and that was it, I would be so bored. I would still watch it week on week because it's Star Wars, but I wouldn't have been like, oh, I can't wait for next week. I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, Andor.
I don't disagree with that necessarily. I just think, like, it's just really well done.
Well crafted,
so, yeah,
but
first arc is Andor. He kills 2 people, and just like that opening scene just sets the tone for the whole show perfectly. Where it's these 2 like crappy. They're not even the Empire soldiers. They're like
private
corporations, and they're like clearly abusing their power. And they tried to mug him, and he doesn't even intentionally kill the first one. He does it by accident. Because I remember watching that scene the first time, like, why isn't that other guy getting back up again to join the fight? And then it was revealed, like, oh, he just died. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah, exactly. I think, I mean, it was not even that. I think the reason he was there was he was searching for his sister. And by the end of the show, that just doesn't matter anymore. Like, sister's dead. We kind of know that. We've just moved on.
I think we'll maybe explore it more in season 2.
I don't think so. I think the sister's gone. Because it's like the same with like Andy Serkis. I don't think we're ever seeing him again.
No, I agree. And I don't want to see him again, frankly. Not that because I dislike him, but because that was just a perfect end to that character.
I Can't Swim Vine.
Yes.
It was... So, do you want to jump to the second arc then? We never spoke about Cyril.
We never spoke about Cyril. Honestly, he might be one of my favourite characters in the show. Like, he sucks. He's the worst man in the galaxy, but I love him for it.
He's just like... He was a failed police officer that got done the hard by, got sent back to live with his mum. Mum pulled a favour, called it uncle, got him a job checking sectors or something.
He's like doing like space accounting or something.
Yeah, I like the outfit. I like the tie that folds out from the middle of the chest. But yeah, Cyril is what a fella.
He is to me, and this is peek behind the curtain. I've already started working on a video, but he is the perfect example of so much of him is clearly influenced by like modern neo-Nazis, and he's just like the perfect example of that kind of mindset where he's Weasley and he's conniving, but he's almost, you can see that he's been brainwashed by this system where he believes that if he commits everything to the nation or the empire, that he's going to be rewarded for it, even though that's clearly not the case.
Well, see, I thought this show was going to go the other way, because there's something about the casting of the guy. There's a little spark of light in his eyes. I think that, because I thought this was going to be a little bit more Mando-like at the time. It's like, this guy is going to be disillusioned with things, he's going to join the rebellion. And we spoke about it with a friend of ours.
I think it does set up that way.
And he was like, I hope they don't do that. And I was like, they're gonna do it. I was so sure they were gonna do it right at the start, because I thought this was just going to be like any other show. And over the course of the season, obviously, that becomes blatantly apparent that that is not going to happen.
Every time you think he's going to get better, he just gets worse instead.
Yeah, by the end of the season, he's a complete devotee.
Yeah, because there's the scene where you're like, okay, he's in this boring, terrible office job. Now he's going to realise that like his life is shit and he's going to join the rebellion. But no. Instead, he's going to wait outside of the ISB and harass a lady.
And harass the supervisor that didn't arrest him. That gave him a sly second chance.
How scared were you that they were going to kiss at the end?
Here's the thing. I think that there is a slight chance that a relationship will blossom between them, because even though you kind of root for Daedra, right? You're kind of like, yeah, climb that corporate ladder, and then when she gets there, you're like, oh no, why did I root for her? She's doing horrible things, which of course she was gonna do, but like you like seeing her over.
Because like the first scene after she raises that is the genocide torture device scene.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh right, this is what's really going on here.
This is what we do here, and I think that really with Cyril, I think she kind of likes him in a really like sick, messed up way. Like,
oh yeah,
it's
like the most toxic relationship imaginable.
Yeah, it's completely toxic. Like, she sees him outside the ISB. She's like, "Do you know how much trouble you're in? Don't ever come see me again," and all the rest of it.
Yeah, she doesn't like arrest him.
Yeah,
so.
but that's like a lot of conditioned training stuff that she's like conflicted with. So I think she quite likes it. And then when she is saved by him at the end, and we're just skipping around. I know you said we're going to do it by arcs, but I think doing it by character might be more fulfilling, actually.
Yeah, sure, okay.
When she is saved by him at the end, I think like she actually is full on like, okay, you can be in this with me.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I'm really interested to see where it goes in season 2.
Do you think we're going to see any of these villains again in season 2? Because I
think so.
They've said that they said that next season, because they clarified it a little bit, because I thought it was going to be each episode is a year of time. It's each arc is a year of time.
That makes more sense, because there's only like 5 years till Rogue One.
Yeah, and each arc is going to be 5 arcs. So each arc is a year of time, and I feel like this Andor's going to be well into the rebellion 2 episodes in, because that's 2 years of time.
Yeah.
Like, or 2 episodes, 2 arcs in, yeah.
Well, my assumption on that is he's a spy, so each arc will be a different spy mission, probably.
Well, what's Cyril and Dedra going to be doing 2 years out from Rogue One, still after Andor? At this point, a reasonably high member of the on-the-ground rebellion?
I think probably.
You think they're still going to be after him?
Yeah, I think so. She's definitely still going to be after Axis. She's still going to be after Luthen, so...
That's true. I think we're still going to see Luthen again, and see all the protagonists, maybe with the exception of Andy Serkis. I think we're going to see all of them again. I just don't think we're going to see
still going to see Daedra and Cyril. I don't think we're done with their story yet.
I would love to. I just didn't really know if we were, because there was something about the show that felt very much like Andor is the hook, and then we momentarily drag along, like dredging a trench. We're like dragging along these characters with us for a little bit until we lose them.
I think
and then
they're important because they
finding
give you a look at what the Empire is doing, and I think that's an important lens for the show to have.
Do you think at the end of season 2 we're going to get a scene with Palpatine in the Senate dissolving the Imperial Senate?
No, I don't. No? I think we're going to leave the Senate before that happens. I think at some point Mon Mothma's going to get, like, run out of Coruscant.
I mean, well, by the time of A New Hope, we know that she's in Yavin 4, because in Rogue One she's there.
So, I think we're going to see that play out long before we see the Senate dissolved.
Alright, so you're going to see Mon Mothma actually have to declare herself as like a rebel politician and not actually an Imperial senator. You think we're going to see Jimmy Smits?
Yes, he is one of the few characters I do expect to see in this in season 2.
Okie doke. We should probably jump onto the heist. We didn't speak about the heist at all.
Yes. I think this show does a great job of escalating each of the arcs. I don't know if the finale is more dramatic than the fourth one, but like, because the prison arc was so good, this one kind of gets left to the wayside, even though this arc is also really good.
Yeah, this arc is I really enjoy, what's her name? Mon Mothma's cousin.
Mon Mothma. I love Mon Mothma. I was so surprised that her story ended up, like, every time we tune in, I'm like, this is great. Her marriage is falling apart. Like, tell me more.
She's planting the fund transactions on him. Where it's not even like they're two completely dissimilar people. It's just that she's not fine with what's going on in the galaxy and he's just sort of fine with it. But they both come from very similar backgrounds.
I love that. I think this show is so great at doing, like all the characters are so detailed in ways that Star Wars hasn't done before. Like, her husband, he's not like a major character in the show.
He's not even a villain, I would say. He's just kind of apathetic. He doesn't care.
But just the way he's written, you get such like a clear understanding of that character where, like, it's not that he like loves the Empire, hates the Empire, he just doesn't care. And like they have the scene where he's like inviting like her rival politicians around to their party just because he wants to have a drink with them. Like, he just doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, he just likes them. Yeah,
he just likes hanging out with them.
Yeah, exactly. It was, and she's like got to the stage now where she's starting to. She knows that her driver's a spy, and she's like planting distrust into them with like being like, you know, have you lost all this money gambling? Because he's got a history of gambling, and then she believes, or she's pretending to believe, that he's lying to her, so that the driver will think, because he thinks that she thinks that he can't hear her.
Yeah, so there's so many layers going on in that scene. It's great.
Yeah, good plans, really good plans. So like he goes and tells the ISB, oh, he's losing a lot of money gambling. She's not happy about it. And they think that's probably going to be like political blackmail or something, but really it's the perfect plan Mon Mothma wants, because she doesn't want them to be looking at her for the money. They want to be losing it through the gambling.
Yeah, and I also, there's so much great drama in that, because she invites her like friend from the bank, her like old school friend. Yeah. And it's never said it. Actually, I think her cousin does mention it at one point, but the two of them have like a sort of an unspoken romantic chemistry, and you're like, is Mon Mothma going to cheat on her husband with this guy? And I just love that. I think that's great. Like,
I never thought that was going to happen, but I do think they have chemistry. Honestly, I'm kind of waiting for it to be her daughter that sells her out.
Oh yeah, her daughter sucks, which I also think is great.
Horrific. Like, you see Mon Mothma in Rogue One, and you see her in Return of the Jedi. You're like, you've been through some stuff, Mon.
Like, yeah, because she's talking to Vel, and her daughter's saying this weird, like, cult chant.
Yeah, she's like part of a religious group or something.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, she's like rebelling from her mum, but like in the weirdest, like, culty way possible.
It's bizarre, absolutely bizarre.
Yeah, the Mon Mothma stuff is great. And I love that she's, like, pretending to be this, like, completely ineffectual politician who's like, we should form a committee to stop the Empire from committing war crimes.
True carrying Padme Amidala's torch.
Yes. But it's a ruse, obviously. She's actually much cooler than that.
Yes, indeed. But I actually think that she is trying to do two jobs at once. She's trying to be like a rebel-funding extremist, while also trying to see if she can resolve things in the Senate. She just knows that's not going to happen.
I think she knows that's not going to happen, though.
But she's trying. And like how like she's having to lower her status by essentially joining up with like a gangster banker.
And I love how messy that is, because obviously she hates the idea of arranged marriages. We know that because her marriage was arranged and she hates her husband.
Yeah.
But we also know that the daughter would want the arranged marriage thing because she's into all the traditional stuff. So it's just, It's beautifully messy.
And furthermore, if it came out that she was doing business with him, the gangster, like, it isn't going to be great, but she's a good person, but she's having to get into messy territory. So, like, no one stays clean here. Everyone gets dirty.
Yes.
And, you know, I actually thought another subvertive expectations. I thought he was going to kind of be a little bit kind of... Remember the motorbike gang from Boba Fett?
Yes. The mods.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be a little bit like them. And then he wasn't. He looked like her banker friend. He was like Coruscant dressed. He had the slick back hair. He spoke well. He was fluent. And I was like,
he wasn't like a greasy mobster type.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna be like Zero the Hutt.
Like, honestly, this show made negotiations about transferring bank funds just some of the most interesting stuff in Star Wars, and that's so impressive.
And this is in the same show with that heist.
Yes, and the heist too, I really loved all that stuff as well. Like, it wasn't quite as glamorous because they're all hiding in dirt
Mon
huts.
Mothma's cousin was who I was meeting earlier, by the way. I can't remember her name, but she's part of the heist group. Vel.
I think the show does such a great job of introducing characters. Like, everyone in that heist is so clearly defined and you understand them and, like, their motives for why they're doing all this.
Yeah, absolutely. And some characters just die. They don't go down a blaze of glory where they get shot and then they crawl dramatically, then they throw a grenade and blow themselves up and kill 5 people with them. They just hit the ground.
Like the undercover our Imperial officer who's like helping them out. And he has this big, like, redemptive arc where he says to his commander, like, I deserve more than hanging for 7 years serving you and all this. And then he just gets shot and he just dies. And they don't even, like, mourn him particularly. It's just like, we've got shit to do.
Yeah, we are moving. They kind of mourn the kid with the manifesto for, like, 2 seconds, but that's it. Andor kills the guy that was going to take the ship and split the money with him.
I love that. It's because I was like, you can't trust this guy. He's obviously going to betray you. And then Andor just shot him.
A lot of, Star Wars pulling from real life. Highland clearances, very Scottish,
Yes.
I had read some things online. People thought it was about, like, Hispanics crossing the border.
No. It's just they don't cross a border.
To me, it just reeked of, Americans not knowing other history. Americans trying to thinking every show now that has any commentary about anything must be immediately ripped from they think it's Star Trek Picard. They think it's stuff that's ripped from the headlines.
Yeah, it's much closer to older stuff like that, where the Empire are deliberately and slowly erasing this other native people's culture.
But also they specifically mention they are building industrial cities in the south for them to move to.
Yes,
which is where I live.
They're humouring their cultures, but they're intentionally trying to, like, remove them slowly. Yeah,
they're trying to do it without a revolution.
And also, like, it's not like an important detail or anything, but the premise of the heist is they're going to do it during this what would you call it, like, cosmic event,
meteor basically. Shower.
This meteor shower, and that meteor shower is so cool.
It's like a rainbow, but, like, not in an arch. Like, it's a rainbow. It's like the rainbow bridge of Asgard across the skyline.
It's awesome. It's such a great setting for the heist.
The ships just disappear into it. The TIE fighters. It was weird how, like, a single TIE fighter can be a legitimate threat. You know?
It's, yeah, like when they see one flying around on patrol and they all have to duck down and hide all the guns.
Exactly.
It's just like, and I love that this show, like, yeah, we're talking about how characters die and stuff, but I don't think the show is, like, particularly, like, morbid or dark in that way. It's realistic, but it's not like grim dark Game of Thrones where characters just die constantly, and it's like...
Yeah. It kills people strategically.
Yeah, I don't think the show ever gets depressing in that way. Where, like, when a character dies, it makes sense. Like, their plan didn't go well, and obviously people are going to die. And that guy ran across an open battlefield, obviously is going to get shot.
Exactly. No, I'm one with the Force and the Force is with me.
And speaking of Heist Crew, you said you really liked Vel.
I did. I thought she was fantastic. I was amazed when she was related to Mon Mothma. It made perfect sense, by the way. But I was just like, whoa, wow, you're related.
It's so, like, subtly revealed. Like, they don't make a big deal of it. It's just like, oh, she's Mon Mothma's cousin, okay?
Yeah, she just sits down and there she is sitting there with her.
And I think, like, her relationship with the other lady is...
Lady that stays on Phoenix for the whole show. Yes. Doesn't do much.
She doesn't do much, but she's like a really interesting character to me just because she is so, like, committed to the mission.
She becomes like, more totally of an extremist. As time goes on, she's got the little magnifying glass set up looking right down at the hotel. She's like, take everything with us, to deconstruct everything, we will kill everyone.
She totally murdered that child, right?
Oh, the family of the commandant of the dam?
Yeah, she totally killed them.
Yeah, I think so.
Like, it's never said on screen or ever spoken about, but when she's walking away from that base, she's like, she killed all that family. Yeah, there's no way she let them live.
She gunned them all down, I'm pretty confident.
But yeah, and their relationship, because, like, it's pretty clear that they're in a relationship. Their relationship is terrible. It's totally unhealthy. And it's clear that, like Vel knows that, but she's staying in it anyway.
It can be rough out there in their room.
Yeah, there's only like 3 lesbians in all of Star Wars, so you gotta take those chances when you can get them.
Exactly. Really enjoyed Vel. I hope to see more of her.
Oh, I'm sure we will. Because
she's got to die though, because she's not anyone that's not in Rogue One. They die in this show. It's like how anyone not in A New Hope died in Rogue One.
Like I know. I think of all the characters in the show, she is one of the ones that has the potential to live. I think most of the Ferrix people I don't see dying. I don't see, like, Bix and the big man and
they're too small to die. They are not going to make a difference in the rebellion, but I think any medium weight characters will die. Unless you think, like, Luthen's going to show up in the Ahsoka show set after Return of the Jedi.
Oh, I think Luthen is definitely going to die.
Yeah, he's got to die. No one will know his name, you know, that speech.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Stellan Skarsgård, man. Fantastic.
You know what I loved? One of my favourite scenes in the whole show. Not even a scene, it's just a bit. When he's walking around on his ship by himself when he's first going to Coruscant. And he's, like, putting his, like, Coruscant clothing on. He's washing himself. He puts the wig on. And he's looking in the mirror. And he does, like, a fake smile. And he's almost like the Joker doing a little dance to himself. A little twirl. But I loved it because it was such like a person that's like he is not his true self is nothing. He has like he has no joy in him. He's just a mechanical animal there to bring down the Empire with espionage and spies and the strategic attacks. Mm-hmm. But he has to pretend to be this showman for the sake of cover story. And yes. But it's like it's not like he's just doing it in the moment in front of people. He's practicing it when there's no one around. And I just liked seeing him in that really, the camera was really good. Like the corridor of the ship just looked so fucking narrow. Like the walls were closing in around him and he's like just a little smile, puts on his wig and his little Joker danced himself like a little sway. And
yeah, Luthen is phenomenal. And it's weird because in theory this is a character that maybe I shouldn't like because I guess the impression is that the rebellion is a bit more sinister than let's believe, but...
Well, that's exactly what they set up in Rogue One. Yes. It starts with Andor killing a man, because he broke his arm.
Yes, but it lends such a reality to it, because, like, even at the end, even though he does dark things, he's not, like, a bad person. He just understands the realities of war.
Not everyone's Luke Skywalker.
Not everyone's Luke Skywalker. Yeah.
No, like look, that's what that speech is that he gives in the lower parts of Coruscant when he's speaking to the spy at the ISB. He's like, I'm not going to get a medal from Mon Mothma at the end of Star Wars Episode 4 New Hope. I am the person that builds the infrastructure that will allow the actual heroes to operate on. I am the person who built the foundation that will allow the heroes to have a runway. Luke Skywalker can't have his runway if I don't build it first, and I build it by evil means, you know?
I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy.
There you go. You remember the words, I don't. There you go. I didn't remember the speech, but that was it. That's exactly what he says, you know.
He has so many great scenes. I also really love the scene between him and Saw Gerrera, where he's talking about like if Saw Gerrera goes to help Anto Krieger, he will die, and they can't warn him because then they'll know that they have a spy.
Yeah. Whereas if you let the attack fail, then like they'll think that everything's fine.
Yeah, and Saw Gerrera starts looking around like he's freaked out by this. He's like,
who is the spy? Who have you got? Someone spying on me? It would make perfect sense that you've got spies everywhere. And he says it's fucking Two Tubes. He's the spy. A little bit of levity, though it isn't played for laughs. I don't think it is played for laughs.
No, but it is. Yeah, it's just such a great scene between, like, and honestly, I've never loved Saw Gerrera as a character. Like, I don't think Saw Gerrera is necessary to this show.
No, neither do I. That's why I think it was all done in reshoots. Like, the show was finished, and then they went back and added all the Saw Gerrera stuff 8 months after.
It's possible. I don't. They realized that they could get Forrest Whitaker for a few days, so they decided to shoot some scenes.
Well, maybe they thought, oh, he'll become relevant in season 2. Maybe let's lay the groundwork for it now.
Maybe, and I do wonder. The one thing that I felt was odd, because this whole like Anto Krieger attack thing becomes kind of like an important background plot for a few episodes,
and we never meet him.
And I thought that was weird. Like, there's not a scene where Luthen goes and says hello to him or something.
Yeah, but, he's like a true believer of the rebellion. He's like, yeah, coach, I'm going to do it. Put me in. And he dies horribly. It was just a face we saw on a hologram, a character we never met, and just a name that we were other people spoke about around the audience. Like, we were like, it was almost felt like there was an expectation we were supposed to know who it was, and we just didn't.
Yeah, it's like, I wonder if people watching this show are like, oh, that must be a guy from the cartoons or something. But it's not. It's just some guy.
It's just some guy we will never know.
Although I'm sure he'll have like a book written about him now. The Amazing Tales of
I saw someone put something on Twitter. I think the actual blue hologram form, because we did see his face very briefly on like a picture. He's just some fan artist on Twitter, apparently. The guy
That's funny.
He was like, Tony Gilroy, thanks for putting me in your show. Thank you. It means the world to me. And it was like a just little Easter egg.
That's nice. You get to be a guy who dies in a staged raid.
With no lines of dialogue.
No. Hey, you're sacrificed for the greater good.
You think we're going to see some Bothan spies next season?
Probably.
That'd be fun. That'd be nice.
It's still weird to me that this is a prequel to Rogue One. I don't know.
I think tonally it's perfect with Rogue One.
I mean, I just think it's better than Rogue One. That's why.
Wow.
Do you disagree?
I haven't actually rewatched. I've been meaning to rewatch Rogue One now that season 1's finished, just to kind of keep the Andor train going. I think it's different from Rogue One, but I think tonally it's the exact same as Rogue One. Like, tonally, I think it's immediately the same.
I don't agree with that, but I think it handles that tone much better.
I think that's the benefit of the show speaking. It's like sometimes like Kenobi could have just been a movie, didn't need to be a show. I think if the Andor thing was a movie, it would have been horrific. This needed to be a show.
And I think it's very well structured as a show with the arcs, which is, it's not really a thing I've seen shows do before, but I wish more shows would do it, where you have like little mini arcs in the season. I think it's a really good idea.
That's what Doctor Who used to do.
Sure, like old Doctor Who.
Yeah, old Doctor Who, yeah. Robots of Death was a 4-part story, yeah. The Genesis of the Daleks, like all this stuff was just, arcs upon arcs. Some shows still do it, but it's just, it isn't that common anymore. Let's talk about, I know we're going to you said arc nice character, but let's just talk about the whole prison thing, please.
You know, it's interesting, because I watched this late. I only caught up like an episode before the finale, much to everyone's annoyance.
Yeah, you did. The prison arc was over, and me and some other people were like, you need to watch it!
So I knew that they were going to a prison, and I knew from the memes that Andy Serkis was going to show up.
See, I had that as a surprise.
Yeah, so I kind of instinctively assumed that I wouldn't like the prison arc, just because I generally don't love prison arcs in things.
Yeah, it feels like you get really bored looking at the same set.
Yeah, you get stuck in the same set with all these, like, classic, like, prison tropes where there's, like, the aggressive gang that he has to overcome and eventually work with, and all this, like, all this prison stuff that you expect. But this show didn't do any of that.
No, it was like everyone was all... They didn't even speak about the crimes of anyone done, like if anyone deserved to be here. The point of the show was it didn't matter what their crime was, no one deserves to be there.
No, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Like, they never ask Andy Serkis, or Kino Loy, I think is his character name.
Kino, yeah.
They never ask him what his crime was, because it doesn't matter. We saw how Andor got in there, and I love that too. Like, he just committed this massive heist, and he gets arrested for loitering.
Nothing. Yeah.
Loitering,
Or potentially he was accused of being part of that gang that was running away. Andor should have got the hell out of there. He shouldn't have been there. Just because of the consequences. I really didn't expect him to go to prison. See, like when we got to the end of the episode, I was like, oh, I guess he's just in prison now. I was like, what is this show? Like, that's where the show really took a turn for me, because I know the show was cut up into arcs with the introduction arc, leaving Phoenix, and then the heist arc. But I thought the show was just going to continue along that story. Whereas traditionally I would call going to prison like a speed bump to that story. You're like, okay, the whole story's just stopped because now he's in prison. Get out of prison and go back to the story. But no, it elevated the show in a weird way that I don't quite know how to articulate, because it really, I think, traditionally, I think this prison arc would have just stopped the story we were watching.
I think the prison is like, it's basically the most important step on Cassian Andor's character arc.
Indeed.
It's when he develops his hatred, or it's when he develops his fighting spirit against the Empire, basically. Yep. It's like, this is, like, terrible, and I have to stop this from happening to people, basically.
I did quite enjoy that Dedra was spending the whole show looking for him when he was already in an Imperial prison.
It's great.
She could have, if she knew his name, like his fake name, she could have went and picked him up.
Like the irony of the safest place for him to be in an Imperial prison.
Yeah, exactly. He can't do anything that will draw attention to himself, he's already inside the system.
Yeah, just the whole setup of this prison, it's so, like... It's dystopian.
They use sign language to get things across cells through the windows, and it takes weeks to even get single words from lower levels beneath them up, because it goes through iterations of Chinese whispers, and because it's not audio, people can misread it with the hand signals.
Just the way everything is set up, like, it's so, like, rigidly enforced. They've got these 50 people, and they build these things on tables, and if the winner gets flavoured food, and the loser gets tortured.
Yeah.
And... it's all, like, rigidly enforced, and they don't even have guards in there. They just have one of the prisoners in charge of the rest of the prisoners.
Like a chef manager, yeah.
And how, like, efficient it's all set up, but it's efficient to the point that, like, if one thing goes wrong, then the entire thing fails.
Yes. And what failed here was someone got out and then through like an admin error was accidentally put back on the same prison again, where word could spread that he had just been put back in the same prison but on a different floor, whereas maybe he was supposed to have just got moved to a completely different prison where no one would have known.
Yes.
And then they had to kill an entire floor.
Yeah, and like the paranoia that sets in because no one really knows what's happening. You just keep hearing like something happened on level 2, something happened
12.
on level 2, something bad.
Yeah.
So 12, yeah.
And they send a medic up, and the medic's the one that can traverse the floors. And he's like, yeah, they tortured the entire floor. And
yeah, that's another one. So they've got this like old guy on their team who's clearly like, he's like really old and really unhealthy, and like
at the start of the episodes, he was fine.
Yeah, but you see that work because that arc actually takes place over like a couple months, I think.
6 months, I think.
Yeah. So you see his condition deteriorating, and Kino's like, oh, don't worry, old timer, you've only got 40 more shifts left. You can do this. And you're like, yeah, there's no way this guy's surviving.
So yeah, it's like killing him is probably the best thing because he ain't getting out of here.
Yeah. No one's getting out. It's so good.
So good. And he keeps asking Kino, how many guards? I'm not telling you. That was when that episode, because the first episode we see Andy Serkis, I'm like, oh, that's just a nice bit part for Andy Serkis. Good for him. Happy he's here. And I didn't really know why they cast him. It was nice to see him, but I didn't know why they cast him. get to the end of the second episode where he's just no more than 12, I was like, now I know why they cast him. Holy moly, what good television. Good telly.
Oh, yeah. And just the whole setup of the prison, it's such a great, like... This is going to factor into my video where I have worded it better, but it's like a compression of the entire system of, like, the fascist government, basically, where they pit people against each other so they ignore the real threat. They have to harshly punish disobedience because they're outnumbered by the entire galaxy, so they have to make sure that they overwhelm the senses with issues. I think Nemec says this, the little commie soft boy.
Yeah.
He has like a speech about how it's easier to hide behind 100 atrocities than for people to rally around one.
Yes.
So they just like overwhelm the senses in this prison. There's like so many issues that you can't like be angry at one of them. It just becomes the normal.
Yeah, it's just that is the way things are.
And like, yeah, like someone, I think it's in episode 2, someone like kills themselves on the floor because they've just like had enough.
Oh, he just steps out of his cell, doesn't he?
He just steps out of his cell, and like people aren't mad at the prison; they're mad at that guy for killing himself because now he's going to stink up the cells all night.
His team were mad because they were like, now we're going to be a man short and we're never going to meet the quota, or we'll probably end up getting tortured at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's that way that they have like deflected where the true issue is.
Yeah.
Like, it's the prison's fault. It's not that guy's fault. He's not the one to be mad at. But it's just the way that the Empire just becomes this like constant in people's life. It's like you can't beat the Empire. That's a ridiculous thought. So, or like when Andor comes home and and Bix says to him like, people are going to turn you in because they blame you for what happened. Where it's like, you don't blame the Empire. The Empire is you can't stop the Empire. The only thing you can do is stop the Empire from taking notice of you.
Yeah, it's like don't blame the system. Just don't break the rules of the system, and things won't be as bad.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, all that stuff is just. This show makes the Empire feel so much more real than it has in any other Star Wars thing.
Yeah, I really like the ISB stuff though. With like, he was Qyburn in Game of Thrones. He was the Grand Maester.
Yes, I know the guy. Yeah.
Yeah. See that the guy that came to even his boss shows up for one episode. Was that Yularen?
It was Yularen. Yeah. In the subtitles, it says Yularen.
That's pretty nifty.
It didn't really seem much like Yularen, but it was a very small part anyway.
Yeah, it was a small bit.
Yeah, he's one of the random people that shows up. One of the very few.
But like, it's not. It doesn't matter that it's him.
No, it does. It could have been anyone. Yeah, it's just like a nice little nod.
Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool. So we escape the prison. One way out. Andor doesn't care to be the person that takes credit for this kind of thing. He's a bit like Luthen in that regard. He's happy to like take the fall if things go wrong, essentially, though that's not the intent. He lets Kino give the speech. Shift manager, I am floor 8 or whatever it is. Everyone.
That's so great too, because when they walk in there and they're like, turn it off, and he's like, well, that could mean so many things, and they just shoot one of the guys. Like,
Jesus.
No fucking around here.
Just turn it off. Yeah, like, it doesn't matter. Turn it off. I think Kino must have expected there to be like some sort of shuttle they could use to get out of there, because he knew he was surrounded by water. He saw the window and the flying.
I think he knew that he was never getting out, which I love. Like, he did all of this just for everyone else. He knew he was never getting out of there.
Yeah, that's really sad. I wonder if he did jump and drown or if someone carried him.
I don't know. I think he just stood there.
Because that's the wonder of the show. What happened? Melchi's like, when they're back in the pleasure planet, when they fly away, he's like, we could have been the only two that made it. I don't think we'll ever know. I think we probably never will.
Star Wars Risa, yeah.
I think, yeah, Star Wars Risa. I think maybe in like, I don't know, in something, some animated show or Mando or something or anything, there'll be like a little reference to a prison escape that happened back then that's talking about this incident, and there'll be like yeah, everyone died except 2 people.
Potentially. I think there's so much great stuff about like the news though. Like when Andor first gets into the prison and they're all asking about like, everyone has to be talking about this new like prison law, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, he's never heard of it. He's never heard of it. They doubled all their sentences and he's never even heard of it. Because, like, the Empire just doesn't let that news spread. Like, it's... Because that would be bad if they let that news out. So, like, I think Mon Mothma is talking about it in the Senate, but... Like,
it's not publicised.
Yeah. It's so great. And when he gets convicted, he's got this like this lady who's not even like a bad person or anything. She's just like the person they have to sign the papers.
Yeah, she's just
someone's name on the paper.
She's just an admin person. She's there to read the charge and file the sentence that she's probably got in a script in front of her.
She's like eating nuts or something. She's like snacking on nuts, and she's just like, "Oh, shame for you. This was 6 months.
Take it out with it. Take it out with the Emperor." Yeah.
Yep. It's so good, yeah. Just like the regular people in the Empire, who like they aren't necessarily like bad people.
They're apathetic and part of the
system. Yeah.
Like during the Clone Wars, I'm sure they would have been Republic to the core, fighting the Seppies. You know, they loved the clones, hated the droids. You know, and then just the Empire is the Republic, and they're like, well, we were the good guys, so we must still be the good guys, and this is just what we do.
Mm-hmm.
I did like the little reference to the fact that Andor was a separatist, the little planet that it was on when that ship crash lands on it. Their CIS uniforms that they're wearing.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
Yes, little touches. When he's on Phoenix is like a young man, the clone trooper armour is what the stormtroopers are wearing.
Yes, I like that
lovely little touches. Love little touches. The colour palette's just drained out of everything. They're completely white. Phoenix looks completely white as well. What did we think of the last act? What do we think?
I think it wasn't as good as the Prisoner arc, but that's not to say it was bad. It was still, like, I would say it's still on par with, like, the heist episodes.
Okay, yeah. I think after the prison, I was a little bit let down with the last episode. But I think it was also because I thought the second last episode was better than even the last episode was. Because I loved Luthen getting trapped in the Star Destroyer's tractor beam and then firing those metal darts that completely... the metal darts will be getting brought towards the tractor beam anyway, so with its velocity and the tractor beam, it just shreds the radar dish. And he uses the lasers to swoop around and kill the TIE fighters and get out of there. Like, his was like a Millennium Falcon if it wasn't shit, you know?
See, I think I like the last episode because the show is so good at rising tension.
Yeah, that's fair. I love the speech from Harry Potter's auntie. What's her name?
From Morva.
Morva, yeah. Yeah, I thought that speech was really powerful. Her like ash brick is used to beat a guy over the head.
It's what she would have wanted.
It's what she would have wanted. And yeah, how like it became like a riot in the street. Like I didn't dislike it, right? I want to be clear, I didn't dislike it. I just think that to me it wasn't as captivating as the prison stuff.
I agree, but I really there's a great moment where they're doing this sort of like somber march through the streets.
Yeah.
And it's close-ups, so you don't really see how many of people there is. And then it finally pans out to a wide shot, and you see, like, wow, the entire, like, town is here. And they're all marching. Which is
more than the Empire had permitted.
That's significantly more than the Empire had permitted. And suddenly, like, the Imperial officer, they're starting to look nervous. They're like, this is all going to go terribly wrong. And just that speech, as she's doing that speech, and what I love about that speech, too, is it's not, like, a perfectly written speech. It's like she kind of repeats phrases a lot. She keeps saying like the same thing over and over. And it just feels more like
she calls them natural. Bastards.
She calls them bastards. Apparently, originally they wanted her to say "fuck the Empire."
I saw a tweet about that. I think that was I don't believe that. I think that would have been really crass. I don't think I would have liked her to say "fuck the Empire."
No, if that's the case, I'm glad they cut that. But that's funny. There's also, like, we haven't really talked about it, but I'll even mention that Bex, one of Andor's friends, gets taken in to be tortured with a genocide torture device.
You hear the screams of certain aliens that cause the screams of their children to be
Hear the screams of, like, children dying that causes a very specific painful noise. Yeah, it's such a weird detail, but I love it. But yeah, so she's been, like, and I love too, like, they don't show it, but this is a universe where, like she doesn't, like, heroically resist torture. It's just, like, in the next scene, Daedra's just saying, like, oh yeah, she gave us all this information.
Yeah.
So, like, And then they just sort of leave her as bait. But there's a great scene that I found like kind of heartbreaking when they're doing like the funeral march, and it just cuts to her like sort of at the window, and she kind of like weakly hums along to it. I thought that was so sad, but in a good way. Like, it just that particular shot worked for me really well. Of like, she's like really hurt and really broken, but she's still like loyal to Ferrex in this, and she understands the culture. Ferrex has such a clear, like, it's never like stated outright, but they have such a distinct culture that makes them just feel more real. Like, they have this guy who goes up and he hits the anvil every morning.
I love that, by the way.
Yeah, they have all their little customs, and like when the corpos are coming and they all go out to their front door and they cause this like alarm, basically, to let Andor know that something is happening, because they're a community and they're loyal to each other despite everything. All this, Ferrex just feels so much more real than like anything in, like I say, like Mos Espa and Book of Boba Fett or anything. They just feel like a real community that could exist.
I mean, I completely believe Mos Espa can be real as well. You get places that don't have a sense of community around them. I'm not kidding. I'm being quite serious.
I mean, fair enough.
You get places that just don't care. You get really apathetic, no man's land towns. They exist. And that place is somewhere that is just beaten into submission by the mob, that maybe they are kind of too scared to do anything. Whereas this is like a working class man's town, where they're rebelling against the man. That's the word. And they really care about each other, They get real community spirit, which I get. I do look forward to season 2, even though I kind of thought this ending leaned a little bit heavily on the fact that there's a season 2.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I wouldn't have been as happy with the ending if I didn't know for sure that we were getting a season 2. Yeah,
this ending really leans on the you come back here.
I do think the final shot though, where Andor goes back to Luthen, and
he's ready for Luthen to kill him.
He says like, kill me or let me join you, basically. Yeah. And then we just end on that shot of Luthen smiling, and I think that is a strong ending to the finale, because it's like, yeah, we know that Andor becomes a spy, but
I think I think I would have preferred this season to feel like its own thing, whereas now I think that the whole show is going to feel like its own thing. Like 1 and 2 are going to be required back-to-back viewing, and it's just I feel unfulfilled. I need to wait another year for it, or no, it doesn't even start filming. I think it's 2024 we get it, or is it late 2023?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, like that's so.
I think this season was still good enough on its own. Like it definitely leaves a lot of open plot threads, but I think in terms of finale to this season, I think it worked really well.
I'm actively anticipating season 2.
Yes. In a way that I'm not anticipating season 2 of Mando season 3, even though I like Mando.
Season 2 of Mando season 3?
Season 3 of Mando. Like, I'm not excited for that, but not in the same way that I'm excited for Andor season 3.
Yeah, I'm excited for Andor for Prestige Telly. I'm excited for Mando for Star Wars. And it almost feels like the Andor is a good show incidentally set in the Star Wars universe, whereas Mando is like Star Wars CU,
Mm-hmm.
Which are fine, but they're different things, different products, I can like Prestige Telly and I can like my Shared Cinematic Universe Telly for different reasons, And I'm looking forward to Mando coming late February, early March next year. Actively excited for it. Ahsoka's, going to be coming out sometime next year as well, I presume.
Don't forget about Bad Batch Season 2.
No, I can't wait for Bad Batch Season 2. Just to bring it back to Indiana Jones, where this all started, I'm looking forward to it, but for different reasons than what I'd be looking forward to Andor for. You go to different products for different things, And Andor is going to be... I'm really looking forward to the award season. I really want to see if it gets anything, or even if it gets nominated for anything. I think it definitely should.
I think for sure Andy Serkis is going to get an animation for supporting role or something.
So many people I know have not bothered to watch this show.
I know. I've been trying, so it's because the show is so hard to sell to people.
They thought Star Wars would be enough. I'm surprised this is getting a second season, by the way. Not quality-wise, but reception-wise.
I think, yeah, I've had such trouble trying to, because I'll acknowledge, I was one of these people too, where it's like, oh, we're doing a show about Cassian Andor, a character I don't really remember
until
I didn't like that much.
Until the trailer came out, I agreed.
Even after the trailer came out, like, as I say, I was a late adopter to the show, but I just heard so many good things that's like, okay, well, I have to watch it.
Yeah, you finally crumbled. That's why you were late. You were late to it.
But yeah, especially trying to sell this to people who aren't, like, super into Star Wars. Because I think you can easily watch this show without knowing much about Star Wars. As long as you know, like, it's a sci-fi universe and the Empire are bad, you're pretty sorted for the show. You don't need to know about, like, Darth Vader or anything like that.
No,
you don't need to know the deep lore.
Not a thing.
But because the show is called Star Wars Andor, people are like, oh, do I have to have watched Rogue One? No, you definitely do not have to have watched Rogue One for this.
I just don't know what you would call it. You can't call it Rebels. Star Wars Rebellion? Brand confusion.
Yeah, like, I understand why they called it this. It's just, it makes it really hard to get people to watch the show. And also the fact that you do kind of need to tell people, like, okay, you have to commit to the first 3 episodes at least, which is also like it's hard to convince people to do that for a show they're not sure about. Yeah. Like, yeah, I almost wish they'd released the first 3 episodes as like a super long 1 episode, but I understand why they didn't do that.
Oh, it's just like the Snyder Cut. Chapter times.
Yeah. Anyway, everyone should watch Andor. That's the final take of Name Not Included.
That is the final take of Name Not Included. And Indiana Jones is going to be great.